folks, you watch my videos, you know who this guy is. He's my friend, Oakland City Attorney John Russo. And John, we're specifically talking about the Oakland gang injunction.
Right.
And your response to a video that was put out by Michael Siegel of Siegel and Lee, and his father, Dave, who's been, I guess, sort of an adversary, yeah?
No, actually,
in this issue. Not in general. In general, we're all friends, but yeah.
Right. We've been generally political allies, but no, on this issue, we're clearly adversaries.
Okay. First of all, for the people who watch this who don't know about the gang injunction, explain what it is.
Gang injunction is a civil court order that the city pursues against a known criminal enterprise. It's defined, the term gang is used, street gang is the state law, the name of it in state law. It's a law that was passed in the 1980s by the California legislature, was upheld as constitutional by the California Supreme Court in 1997. It is a civil order in the manner of a restraining order. It allows a city attorney or a district attorney to bring an injunction, again like a restraining order, against a group of individuals who have conspired to commit crimes and otherwise terrorize innocent people in a community. We've brought two now. One has been approved by the Alameda County Superior Court. That was brought in last February and was granted to us in June. That's called the Northside Oakland injunction. We filed another request for an injunction, this time in the Fruitvale neighborhood, against a gang called the Norteños, which is part of a larger Norteños gang network that spreads throughout much of the western United States.
Oh, now, originally in the Bay Area, Dennis Herrera, the city attorney of San Francisco, was the first to use this?
Well, he wasn't the first. He was the first to use it in a city as progressive as Oakland is. San Jose used, in fact, the leading Supreme Court case from 1997, Acuna is the name of the case, A-C-U-N-A, was a challenge to San Jose's gang injunction brought in the early 1990s. Cities throughout Northern California have brought these injunctions. Sacramento, Stockton, San Jose, San Francisco, Los Angeles in Southern California, San Diego. Cities all throughout California have used these injunctions. Oakland's version is a little more concerned, though, with due process rights and civil rights, which I think is reflective of Oakland's political climate and, sort of how
pick up on that, because the implication is the others are not, and it's been controversial.
No, the others are not. The others are constitutional. Here's the difference. In the law, you may, the way the state law is written, a city can go to the court and say, we're going to prove that this gang exists. And then once the gang is enjoined, then police officers can and do in those other cities make decisions on the scene as to whether or not any specific individual is a member of the gang and should be taken off the street.
Doesn't that set up racial profiling?
It can if it's handled improperly. But in Oakland, we don't do it that way. In Oakland, we prove the existence of the gang, and then every single individual against whom the injunction will be applied is proven in court before a judge by clear and convincing evidence, burden of proof on the city, due process rights protected. Each individual has to be ordered by the judge the way we do it.
I'll pick up on that because initially you said criminal organization.
Correct.
The implication that you have a Weltanschauung, if you will, of determining what is an organization as opposed to an individual acting as a criminal person.
That's
How
right.
do you do that?
Well, you do it by proving that the gang has acted in, these members of the gang have acted in concert, that they know each other, that they've worked together, that they've committed criminal acts together in the past, or in the case of something like the Norteños, where they wear tattoos that are clearly Norteño tattoos. In most of the
How do you gather that information? I mean, do you investigate?
They admit it. They admit it when they've been booked in prior crimes. They have tattoos on their bodies. In many cases, not all of them, but in many cases, these folks self-identify
Because they're part of a gang. They say, look, I'm in this gang.
They do it on Facebook. They do it on YouTube. They do it on MySpace. They do it all over the internet. That they identify, I'm part of a gang.
Wait, time out. So if I'm watching a YouTube channel, I should be on the lookout for a gang video?
There is gang video on YouTube. Take a look.
You got a channel for me to check out?
Not off the top of my head, but I'm just telling you, go to YouTube. You'll find gang videos if you look.
Done. Now, Michael Siegel contends, and I'm curious where this comes from, because I haven't seen it in the literature that I've read, that this is used as a way to gain federal dollars. Okay, where did that come from? And
it springs wholly formed from the imagination of Michael Siegel. It like springs from the head of the Hydra. I don't know where it comes from. Ask Michael Siegel what his proof is of that. I'm here to tell you, we do not receive any federal dollars based upon bringing a gang injunction. We haven't consulted with the federal government about bringing the gang injunction. The gang injunction is not pursued as part of federal law. It's part of state law. And we don't receive any state money either, just to take that off the table. It's one thing for people to receive misinformation and repeat it. It is another for a practicing attorney to look at court documents such as the ones we have produced and to continually misrepresent intentionally what those documents say. There is nothing in our documents about receiving federal money. We don't get federal money.
did you understand also, this is a different perspective, how this could be seen as giving a license to the police to take out activities or undertake activities similar to the Riders incident, those around it?
No, I don't see that analogy at all.
Why?
Well, the reason is because nobody is on the injunction list until they have been proven to a judge by clear and convincing evidence that they are part of an ongoing criminal enterprise.
Right, but I mean,
So it's not a decision. Here's the difference.
Okay.
Here's the difference.
You see what I'm getting
in the
at,
Riders
right?
case, I see where you're getting, but it's based on misinformation.
All right.
In the Riders case, you had police.
No, I didn't get this from anybody. I came up. This is on me. Okay.
Then it's on you.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Police officers in the Riders case were acting in their own discretion as far as what reasonable suspicion they may have had or not had before they acted. I mean, I don't want to re-argue the Riders case. As you well know, it was my position early on in my term as city attorney that the Oakland Police Department needed substantial reform, much of which has happened.
Absolutely.
Okay,
absolutely.
So this is not that I'm, blatantly or knee-jerk pro-police. The difference is that in the Riders case, you had officers making decisions on the fly on the street about who was and who was not a criminal.
Right.
That is not the case in this matter.
But do you see where the fear comes from?
I do, but I also see why people are frightened of, dying or why they're frightened of jumping off bridges. It's irrelevant to the issue.
Okay.
The issue here is nobody is subject to the injunction until they've had a hearing in court and it has been proven with the burden of proof on the city by clear and convincing evidence, not by preponderance of the evidence, which is a lower standard, but by clear and convincing evidence that this individual is in fact a member of an ongoing criminal enterprise.
How is it going right now?
Well, in North Oakland so far, and this is an easy thing, and there's the traditional siren whenever I'm being
every
interviewed.
time I talk to you.
It's traditional Oakland sirens.
Folks, if you're wondering, that's his assistant. Hey, say hi, Alex. Hi. Yeah. Anyway.
So the long and the short of it here is one of the false issues that has been raised by people who are opposing the injunctions for ideological reasons is the question of how do you prove when an injunction has been successful? There are a lot of studies. They always claim that the studies unanimously oppose injunctions.
Right.
That's not true. There are plenty of studies that think injunctions are a good thing. But as with anything that is purely theoretical, you can find professors and academics to say whatever. Here's what makes the Oakland injunction so interesting. Because we bring it against individuals, it's going to be very easy to figure out if the injunctions are successful or not. And that is, are those individuals still committing crimes in the safety zone?
So let me understand, because this is something that I'm confused about. You base it on the existence of a criminal organization or enterprise.
Correct.
But then it's the individual. So that's so you go kind of jump back and forth. And now it seems like you should be saying, is this individual part of that enterprise?
Well, we do.
I'm just asking. All right.
Let me reiterate this.
Okay. All right. Okay.
We have to prove the existence of the organization. After we prove that, we have to prove for every individual, the way we do it in Oakland, we don't have to do this under state law, the way we do it in Oakland, to respect Oakland's strong tradition of due process and civil libertarianism, every individual against whom the injunction will apply, the city has the burden of proof for that individual before the injunction applies to them to get a judge to order, and the city shows by clear and convincing evidence that this guy, Joe Smith, is in fact, by clear and convincing evidence, a member of this ongoing criminal
So it's a
enterprise.
layered effect, if you will.
It is.
Yeah.
You have to show both layers.
Now, where is it that you decide, okay, boom, do you have a list of gangs? Someone said there were 10,000 gangs in Oakland.
No, there are not 10,000 gangs in Oakland.
Remember that, what was that? There was a TV show
Yeah,
that was...
well, 10,000. There's 400,000 people in Oakland, so there would have to be, everybody would have to be in a gang. So you want, if you want to be in my gang, if I can be the leader, you can.
Well, we already have a gang, but go ahead.
Yeah, so
okay, now, but what? Seriously, how do you determine who to go after? And and isn't there a better way?
well, no. This is a tool.
Okay.
It is not the be all and end all. It's a tool. How we decide which gangs to go against, very simple. It comes up through the NCPC system. So it comes up from the grassroots, from people who are working in the community on block watches and neighborhood watches. And those types
NCPC
of
is
things.
Neighborhood Crime
Neighborhood
Prevention.
Crime Prevention Council. It comes up through Oakland's grassroots crime prevention system, regular citizens. In North Oakland, that's how this one developed. In the Fruitvale, it was much more that the Norteños are responsible for like half the shootings in the last year in the Fruitvale. And it's, by the way, it's really important to understand this. It's not just, although our prime motive is the protection of the community, this is also to try to get some of these fellas to get out of the gang life and save their own lives.
Do you succeed?
Well, we've had a couple of people step out. We have an opt-out process that's going to have a member of the new mayor's office on to determine whether somebody has turned their life around. That's the goal, because these fellas are bullet magnets. It's not just that the gangs are shooting other people, it's also that they are targets and innocent bystanders are killed all the time. For example, Zach, we had a guy who was on our list in North Oakland, one of the 15. We got the court to order that the injunction could apply to him. Well, now we got to find him and serve him with the injunction paper before it applies to him, because that's the way we do it.
Yes, the process.
Okay? He's ducking the police. Can't find him. One night he's out. It's midnight. He's with two other guys. When car pulls up, drive by, all three guys are hit. One of the three guys dies about a month later. The guy who was on our injunction list was in critical condition. Now he's out. And a young woman who had just moved to Oakland several months earlier, 29 years old, was getting in her car. Apparently she was going out. It was a Friday night. She's getting in her car. She's shot in the drive-by. Innocent bystander, no relation to the other three guys. She's dead. In North Oakland, last fall, in September, October, we had a young woman who had moved here, was a Katrina refugee. She was on the street corner and she happened to be hanging out.
Was she the one that was on the news about when that was on?
Yes. She was standing next to a member of the North Side Oakland gang. When the drive-by happened to target him, she was hit, she's dead.
Oh my God.
So we have innocent bystanders regularly being hit. But the key issue is that these gang members are not just the shooters, they're the targets. We want to get those targets off the street so that the innocent bystanders aren't being killed. And frankly, most of these men are in their mid-20s to late 20s. They're all around 25. They're a little older. They're
Are they
not
all
teenagers.
black and Latino?
Most of them are black and Latino. In the North Side Oakland gang, at least one of the members that we named was Asian. This is Oakland. We believe in diversity. So,
I got to ask you on that note, though.
yeah.
Michael's charge is that if I'm standing next to it at a bus stop, say, somebody happens to be a member of the gang, I get swept up in a police sting or something like that.
Let me put this in legal terms.
Okay.
That's a lie.
Thank you.
And the fact that he is a lawyer, and I would presume, since he presumes to represent people in this action, which they have a right to be represented, of course, that he's read our paperwork and knows what it is we're doing. He knows it's a lie.
Are you doing this to further your political career?
Yeah, like I did it in February when I did Northside Oakland. I was doing it because obviously ambitious city attorneys do this when they're going to run for mayor. Did you see me run for mayor?
No.
Okay. I'm not doing it for that. If I wanted to further my political career, would I pick something so controversial as to alienate, because of misunderstandings, deliberate misinformation, that I would alienate people who generally have supported my generally civil libertarian positions? No. I'm doing this because it's right.
That out of the way, how can Oakland residents, how can we rid ourselves of this problem?
Well, you can't just rid yourself of the problem. The gang injunction.
And how come redevelopment's not involved? How come economic development isn't? I mean, how come these lines?
You would have to ask the people who have been running the city for the past 10 years why they have atomized the city as they have. A much more holistic approach would be helpful. Understood. Having said that, nothing will get markedly better in Oakland until we get control over the crime rate. We have to get the crime rate down, or we are not going to have. Look, what's interesting to me about this case, the gang injunction case,
right,
is that people like the Seagulls portray it as racist.
Right.
The reality is, the people who are the victims of these criminal enterprises and the people who are the victims of the drive-by shootings are nearly all people of color. The neighborhoods where these gangs are out on the street terrorizing good working people, those neighborhoods are predominantly neighborhoods inhabited by people of color. Why is it not racist, let me ask, why is it not racist to accept that neighborhoods like North Oakland or the Fruitvale, why is it not racist to accept that those neighborhoods are allowed to live in a way in which good, decent people can't walk down their own streets? To me, that's racist. Why should we accept a lower standard of life in a place like North Oakland than we would dare accept in some place like Atherton or Walnut Creek? People have the right to live in peaceable safety. And that's what we ought to be fighting for here in Oakland. And we can do that, but it doesn't happen with any alpha to omega solution. It has to happen bit by bit. The gang injunction is a way to lessen shootings on our streets.
How much time do we have? How much time do we have?
A couple more minutes.
Quick question. Where are the parents in all this?
It depends. We know of parents of people who have been killed who have written us, don't want to be public because they're scared, but who have written us saying, thanks for what you're doing with the injunction. And, and said, how can I help in a way that's not going to make me feel threatened? But, go do it. If it weren't for these gang bangers being out on the street, my son or my daughter would be alive today.
Final question. Well, actually, two final questions.
It's a life and death issue. It's a really, this is not just an issue that people ought to be talking about. Sort of, well, was Lenin right or was Trotsky right? I mean, this is not a theoretical question. These are real people, real kids, real young people. And let me say this too before you ask me something.
Sure.
To have attorneys, adults, like one of the attorneys from Siegel and Yee, go to a high school in Oakland and stand there with a bullhorn and tell teenagers that this injunction is directed at them, when those guys know that there's nobody under 18 on the injunction list, there never will be anyone under 18 on the injunction list, and you're not subject to the injunction unless a judge orders you to be subject to the injunction, to go then and terrify kids, and then get on the radio with me, as Dan Siegel did last week, and say, well, young people are alienated from the police. I don't understand how lying to them and frightening them brings us to a better Oakland, or how it gets us to the reality of where we want to go. I am just not able...
Or an Oakland focus, for that matter. Yeah.
Or an Oakland focus. I don't understand how lying to teenagers promotes anything that's decent and real for the things we want to do. I think, frankly, that a lot of the folks who are opposed to the injunction are opposed to it for ideological reasons, and they're willing to use kids and to scare and terrify kids to get their way. And we won't have it. We will not back down.
Real quick, because I know we got to close. The budget, and does the city of Oakland's financial problem make this harder to enforce?
It makes it harder for us to do it on the scale that we would like to do it. We are limited in how many injunctions we can bring because we just don't have the resources to spare in this office. And there's only so much that I can spend on outside counsel.
And if a person does see something on YouTube, they have a gang, is there a problem with the gang? Who do they call? What do they do?
They probably should call the gang unit at OPD. I mean, this is where this generates from, or they should, if they see it as something that's happening in their neighborhood, they should bring it to their neighborhood crime prevention council if they feel that they can do that. Remember, this is life and death. These are real criminals.
And I'll put that up on the end of this video.
People can and are frightened. We don't want anybody taking risks with their lives.
Right.
We want people to work within the system to help make our communities a better place.
John, thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot, Zinni. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah.